It is so good to see so many of you here from so many different parts of the movement and parts of the globe. I think I speak for everyone when I say we've been really excited about this clinic coming up. If I could ask for the next slide, please. So today's learning clinic is going to be on a spotlight on women's health in Wikimedia projects. So my name is Lucy Hinney, and I'm here speaking as in my role as a Let's Connect working group member. I'm here to support the presentation today and to help out my teammates. If I could take the next slide, please. I'm so excited about our speakers today. We've got Netha Hussain, who's the project lead on WikiProject Women's Health. We've got Dr.Stellah Bosiro-Otieno, who's the executive director of the Africa Centre for Health Systems and Gender Justice. And María Sefidari, who is from Wikiesfera's abortion project, is what she'll be talking about today. This is a brilliant selection of speakers, and I'm so excited to hear them all talk today. If I could have the next slide, please. You won't have to listen to me for much longer. We'll just be going over a couple of introductory bits of information. So today's agenda, you can see here we'll be doing a brief introduction, an icebreaker. We will then hear from all three of our speakers. There will be a Q&A and a group reflection, and then feedback and closure. If you would like to take part in this clinic using interpretation in Spanish, Portuguese, or French, I believe is our other interpretation that's available today, just click on the interpretation button at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and that will allow you to tune into these channels. Next slide, please. Today, we really want to draw your attention, as we do when working in our brave, safe wiki spaces, to the Universal Code of Conduct. You can contact people if you have any safety concerns during today's clinic. Please DM anyone in the chat who has LC beside their name. These are the Let's Connect working group members. Bakola, myself, Cassie, Chinmayi, and Nanur are all here. And if there's anything you'd like to raise with us, please feel free to DM, and we will do what we can to make you feel safe and supported. If I could have the next slide, please. So for those of you who are new to Let's Connect is a peer learning program that is operated as a joint community foundation initiative. We're all here to have a good time. We make people feel comfortable and confident, and we believe that we have something to learn from anyone, no matter the experience. And that is reflected in the wide variety of learning clinics which we have facilitated over the last 2 years. We're here today to gain insight into current initiatives addressing women's health topics, to enhance your understanding of the importance of sexual and reproductive health and rights within women's health discourse, and to explore opportunities for ongoing collaboration and knowledge sharing within a dedicated Wikimedia community focused on women's health. And without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Tila Capoletto, who's going to take over now to offer some context about women's health conversations. Tila, it's such a pleasure to hand over to you now, and wishing you all the best for this clinic.
Thank you so much, Lucy. It's a pleasure to be here. Hi, everyone. I'm Tila Capoletto. My pronouns are she and her. I'm a Brazilian gender organizer, contributing as a volunteer to the Wikimedia movement since 2015. And since 2021, also as part of the Wikimedia Foundation team. Today, I'm here wearing my professional hat, and I want to thank the Let's Connect team for organizing this much needed learning space. And I would like also to give you, as Lucy said, some context on the conversations that led us here. So last year, the Wikimedian and Dr. Netha Hussain, one of our speakers, he started conversations with the Wikimedia Foundation and movement stakeholders around the women's health topic. And as a small group, we held several meetings. So I want to acknowledge the affiliates who are part of these first conversations. These are Wikimedia España, Wikimedia Armenia, Wikimedia Sweden, Wikimedistas Uruguay, Wikimedia Indonesia, and Wikimedia Medicine. Some of them are on this call today, and we hope to hear also from them during our group activity that is going to take place later on in our agenda. Lucy just mentioned our main goals for this session today. And to achieve that, besides understanding the women's health topic better and learning about some Wikimedia activities or initiatives with our great speakers, we are also hoping to map our collective work on the topic. So for that, if you're carrying or have carried out women's health initiatives, you can simply start by sharing them through a Google form that we have prepared, or also add them directly to the today's call meta page. I'm going to paste the links here. And finally, and above all, I wanted to share with you that during the group reflection activity today, which is going to take place after our speakers, we'll work together to review what's working well, what are the challenges, the resources needed, and the vision we have for our collective work on the women's health topic within the Wikimedia projects. And a crucial last thing, if you're not yet working on the women's health topic within the Wikimedia projects, please do not hesitate to participate, because we also need to hear from you. So with that, I thank you all. And I think I hand it over to Nanur, right? Who's going to take us through a icebreaker.
Yes, thank you, Tila. Thank you, Lucy. And hello, everyone, and welcome to our session. We are excited to kick off our session with a little fun to break the ice. So before we dive into the important discussions and mapping out our initiatives, let's take a moment to get to know each other in a playful way. So actually, we're going to play a quick round of a Never Have I Ever Wikimedia edition. So here is how it works. I read out a statement starting with never have I ever, and this statement related to women's health initiatives on Wikimedia, okay? If you have done the thing mentioned in the statement, type in the chat the word guilty. So if you haven't, type I have never. Yes, Cassie.
Thank you. Just a friendly reminder, I'm getting messages from our translators to please slow down so that they can translate. Thank you.
Sorry. So I will repeat how the game works. I read out a statement starting with never have I ever, and this statement related to women's health initiatives on Wikimedia. If you have done this statement or the things mentioned in the statement, type guilty in the chat, or if you haven't, type I have never. So please, I ask my colleagues to share the Jamboard link. And if you want, you can put your name or your +1 under guilty or under I have never, or type it in the chat and my colleagues will collect the answers. Is that clear for everyone? Yes, thumbs up. Yes, good. So now let the game begins. First statement. Never have I ever corrected a misconceptions about women's health on a Wikimedia project. I repeat, never have I ever corrected a misconceptions about women's health on Wikimedia project. So if you did it, if you correct any misconceptions, type guilty. If you haven't, type I have never. And to help you, as example, some people might think that heart disease, for example, only affects men, but we women have hers too, right? And women are subject to this. So this kind of information, yes, we have the first guilty, and we have I have never as well. Let me waiting people to answering this, share with you this link, so you can read the article about this and on Wikipedia. So this diagnosis will not be missed. Next statement. And we have one guilty. 416. Okay, we'll see the next. Never I have ever added information about sexual and reproductive health to a Wikimedia project during an editathon. So during an editathon, never I have ever added information about sexual and reproductive health to our projects Wikimedia projects. So myself, I didn't find any editathons about women's health. Maybe I missed someone or something. It could be any general editathons, but where the people they added such information there. Yeah, one guilty, good. And in this game, it's obvious that more we have guilty is better. But I have never, it's, yeah, number is bigger. So moving to the next statement. And there is someone sharing with us, I added some articles on health issue to Telugu Wikipedia, not particularly any gender, but planning to. Yes, thank you. Next statement, so saying, never I have ever used Wikimedia Commons to upload images or media related to women's health. So we're talking about Commons here. Never I have ever used Wikimedia Commons to upload images or media related to women's health. Guilty is 0. Who is our first guilty? Yeah. 11, I have never won. This, the only guilty, could you please share the link of this Commons with us to help us see what is this file or the media or the image related to women's health, because we have only one.
That is me who did it. So we had a project called Smart Surveyor. Smart Surveyor uploads, where Smart Surveyor is a group that shared their images happily with us to upload on Wikimedia Commons. So I, along with a small group in Wikimedia Sweden, we together uploaded a lot of images related to healthcare to Wikimedia Commons. I can share the link shortly.
Thank you, Netha. And moving to the last statement, never I have ever attended a webinar or workshop about editing women's health topics on Wikimedia. So never I have ever attended a webinar or workshop about women's health topics on Wikimedia. Guilty, more guilty, please. Yes, 2. Could you share the name of the webinar or the workshop or any link to help us to know more, and maybe add on the form to help the organizers as well to get more initiatives about these important topics? Yes, 2 guilty, but we had guilties for every statement, and this is good. So this was the end. And thank you everyone for answering actively. I hope these answers help speakers and attendees to get to know each other more and get an overview of participation on these topics in women's health in Wikimedia projects. And over to you, my colleagues.
Okay, Nano, thank you for taking us through the icebreaker. Now we'll call on Dr. Stellah to take over with the first presentation on feminist framing of women's health. Over to you, Dr. Stellah.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Loud and clear. Hello, Dr. Stellah, can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you. Yes, now I
Okay.
can hear you.
Oh.
Dr. Stellah, you're on mute.
Oh my God, I've been on mute. Thank you. Hi, everyone. It's so lovely to connect with all of you. My name is Stellah Bosiro. I lead an institution called the Africa Center for Health Systems and Gender Justice. My background is in medicine, human medicine. I'm a researcher, I'm a feminist, I'm a queer person, and above all, I'm a lawyer. And so it gives me such a pleasure to host, to have this opportunity for me to just connect with all of you. Next slide, please. And so I have framed my conversation, less than 10 minutes, around the feminist framework, around women's health. And I want this in terms of how it is that we are going to unpack, because as we know, and as you're aware, Wikimedia is a huge encyclopedia. And so when we're looking at means and ways to be able to contribute and to be able to shift conversations, particularly with the current dispensation, where we are seeing a lot of attack to human rights organizations, women rights organizations, queer organizations, grassroots institutions, then we have to locate our thinking in certain levels. So the first level is around the structural areas. So here I speak about laws and policies of social institutions. So it is about equity and equity, looking at access, accessibility, acceptability, availability, and quality. You'll also hear me speak about, sorry, did you change the?
I'm still on the same slide.
Still on the, I don't.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can see it, yes. And the second one will be looking at the bureaucratic hierarchies, that, I'm sorry, there's something happening with my presentation. I don't know. Just give me 1 second. 1 second, I try and fix this.
Okay.
Something, yeah. This universe shall not. Let me just get this.
Are we presenting the right order of slides for you, Dr. Stellah?
Yes, it's actually from my end, because
Okay.
I'm using my hotspot. So the challenge is, so I have to get out of one.
No problem.
All right. Oh, thank you. Now I'm settled and sorted. All right. So the other one is looking at the hegemony, justification of domains of power. This is the first slide. And when I say domains of power, is locating around the threats that we're having right now around sexual and reproductive health, issues around women's health, the investments around it. Where is that center of that power? And then at interpersonal level, discriminatory practices in our everyday experience. So you hear me give examples of FGM. You hear me give examples of child and enforced marriage. You hear me give examples of rape, as form of conversion therapy, as part of interpersonal challenges that happen to individuals who identify as queer. Next,
Dr.
particularly,
Stellah, I'm
yes,
sorry,
please.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but the interpreters are asking me if you can speak just a little bit slower so they can translate.
Okay, sorry about that.
Thank
All
you.
right, next. And so there are a number of elements when we talk about sexual and reproductive health and rights. And the component, lots of the time people talk about health, but there's a component of rights. And that right gives, in terms of fundamental rights and freedom, then it actually allows individuals, it allows institutions, it allows movement to be able to locate who is the duty bearer, who is the right holder. And so when you're looking at it, for example, around who is being held accountable when we're losing young girls because of a self-abortion, when there's an attack around LBQ women, when there's an attack around individuals who are working within economic intersection of economic rights and gender, who is the duty bearer and what is it that their responsibility in. I wanted to make very clear that right now there's a movement around erasing the expansion of sexual and reproductive health and rights, particularly when it comes to SOGISEC issues. And for purposes of those who have do not organize or work around sexual orientation, orientation basically is just the emotions that you have to individual, the affection. So there are multiple levels of orientation. There are people who you hear them being called straight, so they have heterosexual relationship, and there are multiple levels of also heterosexual relationship. There is cis heterosexual relationship, there's trans heterosexual relationship. Then there's the issues around lesbianism, women who are attracted to women, gay men who are attracted to men. But also there's an important thing to identify and to realize there are also individuals who are asexual, and also and that's a very huge component of respect of their rights and identity. And then gender expression is basically manifestation, through, you hear me say, my name is Stellah, I'm a she and her, through gender, through social contrast, through how it is that we present ourselves, through body characteristics. And these are the cues that you hear us speak about femininity and masculinity, right? And they're very important. So you actually find individuals or persons who identify as lesbian, but they're masculine presenting. So what does that expression looks like in terms of their individuals? And then sex characteristics, these are particularly morphologically around genitalia, and then within their DNA around chromosomes and hormonal structures. We talk about these sexual characteristics because of a group of individuals who identify as intersex as a very key component understanding their sexual reproductive health needs. Next slide, please. And so this is the gingerbread man. It's a common image that we use around how to differentiate, right? And as you can see, there's the emotions, how you feel towards another person, the level of attraction. Then there's sex, which is assigned at birth, which is a combination of your chromosomes, a combination of sex characteristic, internal and external, a combination of the gonads that you have, which basically is just the external genitalia. And then there's expression, the way in which persons present their gender and is perceived by the society. Important to mention here around trans-identifying individuals. Initially, before I think 3 years ago, Ian, I note your comment around Sojisek being a new word. So yeah, lovely to notice that we are all learning. Another way we're looking at it, if you think about gender, and WHO had recently declassified. Initially, they used to say trans individuals are mentally ill. No, it's actually a gender dysphoria, and the gender dysphoria is what now separates that their sex assigned at birth and their gender identity is totally different, and how it is that they express their gender identity and expression. So you have trans men and you have trans women. Trans women were assigned male at birth, but they identify as a feminine. Trans men were assigned female at birth, they identified as masculine. Next slide, please. And so if you're going to speak about your contribution, if you're going to organize, if you're going to build solidarity within the whole Wikimedia fraternity, then there are multiple ways in which you have to look at sexual and reproductive health and rights. One of them, you look at it around trans and cis women and GNCs and asexual individuals is who are feminine, who are assigned female at birth. You look at menstrual health. So you hear us politicizing issues around menstrual poverty. You will hear us politicizing issues around connection of menstrual poverty and child and enforced marriage. You will hear about norms, social norms around menstrual health. Around maternal health, I've specifically used the word maternal health because in the work that I do within the healthcare sector, we usually conflate a lot of issues in maternal health, including abortion. And so it's important for us. Is there a hand up?
Yes, Dr. Stellah, I'm so sorry to repeat myself, but I have interpreters telling me to please slow down for interpretation. Oh, you're on mute. You just need to...
Yeah, okay. I know I'm on 10 minutes, but okay. So the next one is around maternal health, and maternal health, important for us to unpack it because one of the causes of maternal mortality is around unsafe abortion, because hemorrhage, which is bleeding because of unsafe abortion. So it's usually hidden in there. And then there's the issue around comprehensive sexuality education. This is very critical, particularly around young people, adolescent and young people. And here you'll talk about issues around autonomy, We'll talk about issues around consent. We'll talk about issues around age appropriate as a very huge component when you are doing your work. Also safe abortion. And it's not just safe abortion, it's safe abortion and all the 5 pillars of post-abortal care, which includes provision of contraceptives, of family planning, which include psychology, integration. All those are very critical points around safe abortion. And then gender-based violence in all its expansiveness, physical, emotional, verbal, and financial violence. Very important to be able to have all those separate, because there are ways in which women might not have, or men or gender diverse persons may not experience what is usually quantified, particularly within our laws around physical violence. But now we are creating jurisprudence around looking at what does financial violence look like? What does emotional violence look like? And how does it impact the lives of individuals? I also need to mention a very special category around gender-based violence, and it is called intimate partner violence. And intimate partner violence, particularly around people who are in a romantic relationships, or if it's not a romantic relationship, it's a consensual adult relationship that they are in, or even in some cases, it's Romeo and Juliet relationship, which usually we categorize around adolescent relationship. So unpacking that is also very critical around sexual and reproductive health and rights. Then there's HIV and AIDS. I don't want to speak much about this because this is the common conversation around reproductive health. But the only thing I need to mention is around decriminalizing and criminalizing laws around stigma that comes with decriminalization. I also need to speak about how we politicize the issues of HIV again right now is around identities. You would hear certain individuals being called key and vulnerable populations, and those are within the medical fraternity, meaning that there are individuals whose risk of getting infected by HIV and AIDS is higher than the general population. And so when we've used the entry point of HIV to decriminalize laws that criminalize certain identities, we've used that pathway. But there are disadvantages that identities have actually been pathologized, and conflated to be diseases instead of humanizing individuals. Harmful practices like FGM, harmful practices like child and forced marriage, all those are components of sexual and reproductive health and rights. And finally, sexual diversity. Sexual diversity, I'll speak more about it in my next slide, because I want to spend quite some time, like 2 minutes on them. When I was requested to speak about these issues, next slide, please. Harmful practices are like female genital mutilations, child and enforced marriage. These are social issues. These are practices within which are justified because of social cultural context around where we come from. So if you look at how it is the contemporary issues on sexual and reproductive health and rights, you realize it's not a singular story, but it's multifaceted, it's intersectional, and has multiple layers. And these layers have policy, these layers have financing. Who is financing? Where is that money coming from? These layers have sexuality. These layers have a component of public legislation, have a component of localizing, have a component of abortion in multiple of them. And so if you are doing around this work as feminists, one of the things that we are advocating for is advocating for having an intersectional lesson. So if you're working with people living with HIV, you must be able to locate an adolescent living with HIV. You must locate a person with disability with HIV. You must locate a cis woman who comes from a low social economic status with HIV. And so you must be able to have multiple layers. And so when you choose that you're on PAC or support or doing advocacy or doing strategic campaigns, you actually locate where it is. And I put their mental health critically, because it cuts across all different sectors of vulnerability. Next slide, please. Let me take 1 minute to think about person with disabilities and sexual and reproductive health and rights. Unfortunately, very few data exist about needs, and interventions and support, and even building movements around SRHR and PWD. And the reason why that exists is the innate discrimination that is structurally, that is embedded within our norms, that really excludes persons with disability. In my sector, unfortunately, many women who come, for example, who are pregnant are frowned upon if they have a disability. You hear jarring statements like, but even you, why are you pregnant, you know? But how do you even have sex, you know? And so the component of sexual pleasure also comes in, is that is part of reproductive health is an expansiveness of sexual pleasure. And that's another area that I have huge interest in, I'm writing about. And part of it is recognizing that sexual pleasure is innate, it's a right. And so there should not be any layer that actually excludes an individual from being able to enjoy their highest level. And so what does it look like in terms of action? Is raise awareness. Yes, pleasure is liberation. Raise an awareness, reach and serve, reform policies and laws and financial component of it, promote research and establish partnership. But when you do this, you must let the persons with disability lead. You must let the lived realities, the voices, and the visibility of individuals whose lived experience can be able to bring in those realities much better. My next slide, please. Spend a little time about what's happening, particularly within our continent of Africa and Latin America, is that we're seeing a lot of pushback, political pushback, fundamentalist, religious fundamentalist. We are seeing sectors like healthcare, sectors like education. We are seeing traditional leaders who are coming up and they're pushing for criminalizing laws around issues of sexual orientation, gender identities, and expression and sexual characteristics. And so if you look at the map, for instance, I like this map for Africa because it tells you some of the punitive laws that exist. In certain countries, there's actually death penalties in Africa, 4 countries. In other countries, like my country, is 14 years imprisonment. Sudan, it's actually up to 10 years. 10 years to life imprisonment. Uganda passed its law this year, and the same thing, the same story happening. And so when you're able to ask yourself around human rights, and then you go back to the principles of human rights, universality, indivisibility, and inalienable, you know, and anchored around non-discrimination and equity. So you realize that there's a differential treatment around persons who identify, and this is not just socio-sec people, individuals, but is also even persons with disability. There's differential treatment. And so if you're going to write, if you're going to do advocacy, if you're going to build movements around it, what does those movements look like? Those movements are actually going to push, if it's legal, reforms and say, we must be able to reform our laws so that they have substantive equality, meaning that we address persons with disability to be able to make reasonable accommodations to actually meet their sexual and reproductive health needs. What does that look like? Access to contraceptives on logistic access, physical accessibility to these facilities, creating awareness within healthcare sector, creating awareness within communities so that persons with disability are not excluded, are not segregated, and particularly those with mental illness find a way to live dignified life. Next slide, please. I need to start by saying on abortion, a lot of the time we just talk about cisgendered women. We need to remember trans women, there are trans men who identify, who organize around, who are sex workers. We need to identify that there are non-binary people from all backgrounds who may need. We need to remember that sex through the violence of rape has been used for conversion therapy around LBQ identifying individuals. And so when we talk about access to safe abortion, we need to remember the constituency who need safe abortion are beyond what would traditionally think about cis women. And so there has to be intersectional framework around reproductive justice that are needed to contest these laws that are beyond around health, but nuancing, if it's health, you're nuancing around privacy, you know. Access to health is a very personalized issue. So what does privacy look like, you know? And how do you use that as an entry point towards advocating for access to safe abortion? You advocate it from a maternal health, you advocate it from a place around queer and transness and politics, and say, for us to think about reproductive justice, then we must actually even expand it more to think about right now what we're witnessing in the whole around refugees, the sexual violence that is being documented around forced displacement of individuals, is also something that we think about. And so it cannot be from those of us who live in safe environments, there's no conflict. There has to be multiple layers of it. And so if you're doing advocacy, if you're writing about it, if you're speaking and building movements, then you need to be able to unpack it, all of them, from those particular layers. Next slide, please. And then consent. Consent cuts across child and enforced marriage, cuts across sexuality and sexual orientation and diversity. Yes, Cassie.
Hi, Dr. Stellah. We're going to have you close out because we need to leave time for the two other speakers we have here today.
Yes.
And keep on time because we are just within a time frame. And so we would greatly appreciate if you could close out. So sorry.
Don't worry. I teach this for 3 hours, so I was trying to squeeze them into it. So let me go back to my last slide. And that one is around pushback against the gender and the conservative pushback, and to say that despite 70 years since the Declaration of Human Rights and 40 years since the Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination against Women, what we are continually seeing is a rising in conservative backlash, increasing exclusionary rhetorics around gender norms, especially targeting transgender identifying individuals, that has led to high persecution and violence. Must be able to talk about political strategy as individuals within the movement and think about conservative pushback and religious groups who use anti-gender, anti-rights ideologies to mobilize political bases, often forming this from an opposition or resistance of the gender ideology. And finally, to locate it within the global landscape and say, how do we use the different movements that we have transnationally to be able to push back against the current justification of child marriage, female genital mutilation, honor killing, criminalizing women for their sexual and reproductive health and needs. And so this is a very important slide I wanted to. And finally, one last minute, a human-based approach to SRHR. It looks like non-discriminatory, it's available, it's accessible, it's of high quality, it's anchored around informed decision. There's a recognition of privacy and confidentiality, and there's a component of accountability, particularly to the duty bearer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Stellah. This was indeed a very informative presentation with a lot of, and also like opening us up to so many underrepresented topic on Wikipedia that revolves around women's health. And I know we all have a lot of questions, and please do well to keep dropping your questions in the Jamboard while I pass the virtual mic to Netha and Hussain to also speak on what she has been doing around women's health. And yeah, over to you, Nathan.
Thank you very much. Yes, today I will be talking about WikiProject Women's Health. It is a project to find out the knowledge gaps and improve the quality of content related to women's health, not only on Wikipedia, but also on all Wikimedia projects. So this project, the WikiProject Women's Health, was started as early as in 2014 by a group of volunteers, but it did not have so much momentum because a lot of those users moved on to other projects, and this became inactive. So in 2022, I and some other Wikimedia volunteers decided to revive this project and to expand its scope to include not only Wikipedia, but all Wikimedia projects, as well as content in multiple languages. Next slide, please. So to begin with, we identified a list of vital articles. A vital article is an article that is very important to be present on a Wikipedia. So you could say that menstruation, abortion, HIV/AIDS, birth control, etc., stand in the list of vital articles. And these articles were categorized from level 1 to level 4, each level containing 100 articles. So, and then we would map which Wikipedias have these articles and which language Wikipedias do not have these articles. So if you speak a particular language and if you're interested, you can use this tool to be able to add your language and see if these vital articles exist on your language Wikipedia. And you also get an indication of what the quality of the article is in your language Wikipedia. And in this way, you can identify knowledge gaps in terms of whether the vital articles are present. I'm sorry? Yes, let's move on. So this was the first thing that we did. And at this point, I would like to mention the work that WikiProject Med Foundation did together with the lead, Dr. James Hillman. Over 200 articles that are of vital importance to women's health have been translated to specifically to small language projects on Wikipedia. And these articles have been immensely useful for people who speak the smaller languages from the global south. Next slide, please. And one of the other initiatives was to find out the article gaps that exist on English Wikipedia. So if you look at the list, this is the list of some articles related to pregnancy that should have been there on Wikipedia but is not present. So similarly, we have lists of articles related to abortion, lists of articles related to epidemiology, lists of country-specific articles related to birth control or rape or domestic violence and so forth, that should have been on Wikipedia but still exist as an article gap. And in order to bridge these article gaps, we need reliable references. These references have also been collected, and if you can see a little number on next to every red link that you see on the list. And this number denotes the citation that could be used for building that article up from scratch. So a lot of these topics are listed in the WikiProject Women's Health meta page, link to which I will share shortly. Next slide, please. It was also important to find out if there are quality gaps in the existing articles. Suppose there is an article about abortion on English Wikipedia, but there might be deficits in terms of quality. And to do that, somebody has to read through that article and figure out if there has been missing citations, if there are sections that are not updated, if there are sections that are empty or doesn't contain enough information, if there are images that do not represent the actual condition that is being described and so forth. So to do that, one has to do an article quality assessment, and WikiProject Women's Health has a template for assessing article quality related to women's health. And this also includes categorization of articles into the right category so that it's easier, not only for humans, but also for search engines to find the relevant articles and pull them up. Next slide, please. When it comes to quality gaps, we also created lists containing articles with certain quality deficits. The box that you see on the left is the list of stub articles. A stub article is a very short article, a very small article on Wikipedia, which could benefit from potential expansion. Similarly, we found articles that do not have adequate citations, articles that have just bare URLs but not complete citations, articles without short descriptions, articles having blank sections, and so forth. So a full list of all these lists of these articles having quality deficits have been presented on the meta page for WikiProject Women's Health. And most often me monitors this list carefully and try to bridge those knowledge gaps as much as I can. But everybody is welcome to come and join and bridge not only the quality gaps, but also contribute to other aspects of the project. Next slide, please. There are also image gaps and data gaps when it comes to women's health information on Wikipedia. Some of the very vital articles do not have images, or the images are not sufficiently good to represent the disease condition or the health condition that is being mentioned. And I recently read a research article which said that the article about breasts in a particular language that a woman looked up showed the picture of breasts that do not represent the average breast that a woman has. So it showed a breast that is huge and does not represent the human anatomy of the normal population of women. So such kind of issues would definitely exist on different languages, and it's quite important that the images that we present on our articles are representative and educational. So these are some of the deficits that we need more volunteers to look into and be able to fill these gaps. And secondly, there is also a lot of data gap related to, say, maternal mortality ratio or condom penetration or different indices related to women, which are easily available on different websites related to the World Health Organization or the UNICEF. And many other international organizations, but they are not present on Wikidata, which which is the repository of data that we often use for also powering Wikipedia. I would also like to talk about the ESA campaign. The ESA campaign involves adding structured data to images, and there is an ESA campaign related to women's health that anybody can go in and add structured data related to images related to women's health. And there is also a lot of possibility to do GLAM uploads related to women's health. I have identified 3 textbooks related to obstetrics and gynecology that could potentially go into Wikimedia Commons, which also has very good illustrative images related to women's health, but in black and white. These images could be modified or remixed to be able to make very good quality images that can eventually go into Wikipedia articles. There is also a disease challenge where you can add lexemes related to diseases, particularly of women's health. A lexeme is like an entry in a dictionary. So some of these diseases, they do not probably have a terminology defined on Wikidata, and one could easily go into the disease challenge and translate the name of that particular disease so that it's also available in the particular language that you are translating to. And finally, there is a lot of women's health related images on Wikimedia Commons that are not used on other Wikimedia projects. So it would be beneficial if we could have a look into the existing women's health content as related to images on Wikimedia Commons and integrate it into relevant projects. And next slide, please. Thank you very much, and I will share the link to WikiProject Women's Health in the chat box so that everybody could have a look. It's over here, and anybody of any expertise level is welcome, and very many tasks are related to improving the quality of articles is provided in the Participate tab of WikiProject Women's Health meta page. I invite everybody to have a look and join the project or improve the project or leave feedback and comments. Thank you very much.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much, Netha, for sharing about your project. It was really okay. Chino, do you want to say something?
No, I just wanted to share that we are approaching 1 hour, and considering the session structure, we might slightly run a little bit late, 5 to 8 minutes. So we are requesting everyone to stay back with us if possible. Over to you, Bukola.
Okay, thanks for the announcement. Yeah, so I was just saying that it was really nice to see what the WikiProject Women's Health has been doing, and just to also hear about other initiatives that's been carried out around women's health topic. I would like to also call on María Sefidari. She's already pinned to the screen. And as you can see, that's a slide here, and she'll be talking about Abortion in Spain campaign. Over to you, Maria.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for coming today. And I know we're tight on time, so I'll try to be as brief as possible. Today I'm gonna be talking to you about a very cool campaign that we've been doing in Spain in the context of the Wikiesfera user group. It started late last year, but it has been ongoing until right about this month. Next slide, please. To give you some context, abortion has been illegal in Spain since 1985, but it has been contested, and it hasn't been until last year that the Constitutional Court of Spain said, yes, it is a constitutional right, and there can be no more appeals about it. Spain has 17 regions, and each of them can manage health services. This is important because this is what we use as a justification for creating articles on abortion per region in Spain. The article of abortion in Spain, the generic article, already existed. A very small article it was basically reviewed, converted it in PDF, like 9 pages with about 69 sources, and does not go into any details about the regions. Next slide, please. So it was in this context, and also looking at what other countries had done in Spanish Wikipedia, particularly Mexico, who had done something similar with the states of Mexico, but never got around to completing it, that we decided, why can't we do articles specific to each region of Spain? We decided that we wanted to do a whole campaign in the sense of we also did not have a lot of images on this topic. So we used our social media to make a call for images of demonstrations or any other related abortion-related images that people we know upload to private companies such as Instagram or Twitter, but not to commons, right? So it was a little bit also of a pedagogical approach to, hey, commons exists and we really need images here because it's very important for Spanish Wikipedia in particular because we do not have fair use. So images need to be free so we can illustrate articles. Of course, another approach was creating the articles, right? The articles and templates in Spanish Wikipedia. The next phase in which we are currently on is related to outreach. We don't just want to have the information available. We want to have people be aware that this information exists and be able to use it. And the next stage after that is going to be translations. This is a very brief overview of the entirety of the campaign. Next slide, please. And I'm going to share a little bit which kind of framework we wanted to use when thinking about creating these articles on Spanish Wikipedia. Obviously, the baseline we used was abortion as healthcare. It was very important for us to understand that we needed to use the lens of healthcare when we're discussing abortion, especially when we're discussing abortion per region. This means that we are going to be discussing the history of each region, but we're also going to be centering women's rights. We're going to be centering what happened in each region, from the demonstrations to women being detained, to the access of services by women. We believe that this is an approach that's not that common on Wikipedia. I will make a little brief comment to say that we actually searched for information and data on trans men, and it was not available. It was hard enough to find information on women, but we actually looked for it, and we couldn't even find anecdotal evidence. We also did a lot of emphasis on the history of access to the services, using all the available data and all the public data, which we have to say it was not that public and not that easy to access. In reality, in Spain, there's like a handful of reporters that have been consistently reporting on abortion, and we get most of our knowledge and our data from them. And we also adopted a public policy perspective. That is to say, when we're discussing how the situation on abortion is changing, we're also drawing the patterns of, for instance, the use of consensus objection as a hospital policy. This explains why there were multiple provinces in its region that did not report a single abortion for many years, which in reality all it means is that this is forcing women to travel to other regions, right? So we wanted to be certain that we incorporated this in the articles, and not just as a brief mention, but as something that informs how the articles are constructed. Next slide, please. So the results consisted on, we have 17 regions in Spain. We did 20 articles, 17 for the regions, 2 for the autonomous cities, Ceuta and Melilla, and one that was about women traveling abroad, Spanish women traveling abroad to get abortions. If we convert all these articles into PDF using the Wikipedia tool, this will be approximately 389 pages. We were very adamant that these articles need to be really well sourced because we expected them to be contested. So there was a huge emphasis on using reliable sources. And as you can see, we used more than 2,300 sources, 115 per article. I have mentioned before, Spanish Wikipedia does not have fair use, which means images are tricky. So something that we did instead was rely heavily in the use of tables, using tables to make the data more visual and easy to access for the casual reader. In total, we added more than 2 million bytes to Spanish Wikipedia on the course of this campaign. Next slide, please. Now, as I said, this campaign is not over yet. We have several next steps. And one important one would be translations, especially in languages spoken in Spain. Now, we've made some outreach to some women that speak these languages. And we've encountered some reluctance because in most languages spoken in Spain, the article of abortion in Spain, the generic one, doesn't even exist. Only in Catalan it exists, and it's clearly a translation. So we actually have to go a step back to get those articles, the Abortion in Spain article translated first, and then hopefully the regional ones, so that they can be present, especially in those other languages that are spoken in Spain. This has helped us to start broadening our way of thinking, in the sense of it's really important to write women biographies, and we believe in this, and Wikiesfera is definitely going to continue doing this, but we want to branch out to women's health and women's rights, because we have, we do know this is not just underrepresented topics, but even when the articles, generic articles, they tend to be brief, they tend to be short, and they don't. And this is a point that actually came up. We did have a user ask why was it necessary to do regional articles, right? Even though we believed we had the justification that, you know, healthcare is competencies are in a per region basis in Spain. we actually believe that why not? Why can't we go in as much detail as possible about women topics as much as we want, right? We were able to defend, and it was relatively easy to defend, that we could have regional articles on this topic, but why can't we have regional articles in any other topic related to women's health and related to Spain, or related to Mexico, or related to Argentina, or related to Chile, right? Like we can and we should be thinking in terms of, we can go into as much detail as possible if we have the data and we have the reliable sources. And in this line and in this vein, we're starting to think of the emergency contraception series. We do not have an article on a Spanish Wikipedia on emergency contraception in Spain. We want to do it. And then we want to go deeper and go in a per region basis, exactly because of the same justification I mentioned earlier. But as you can see, like, it's not just this, it's basically every other topic related to women's health and how is it implemented in Spain in a per region basis, right? That's the kind of specificity that we have been lacking, and we believe it's very transferable to other countries and as well to other languages. Next slide, please. So thank you, and I hope you can help us with the translations especially, but also spreading the word that it is important, that we need to go a little bit beyond generic articles, and why not? Let's just go into as much detail as possible. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Maria. It's so nice to hear about your projects and how you've been able to add about 2 million plus bytes to the wiki. And this means a lot, especially as we think about mapping, spaces to create visibility for women's for topics related to women's health on Wikipedia and its sisters projects. And this takes us to the next agenda for this session. And that's where we get to listen to all your questions, what you found interesting, or what questions or comment do you have for the presenters. Remember, we started by, first of all, mapping out what is women's health topic, how can we contribute to it, and then we went on to talk about examples of projects that has been carried out. And yeah, I see there's a lot of questions in the chats, and I would kindly request the support from my team member to help me drop those questions on the Jamboard. And yeah, I see specifically there's a question for Netha. How did you assess the quality of the article? Was this done manually or did you use an AI tool? So Nathan, if you would like to respond to that question, and just a follow-up question, can we add language additions to the vital articles table? So Netha, over to you.
Answer to question 2, yes, you can add your language to the vital article list, and you will immediately be able to see which articles among that list of vital articles is not present in your language edition of Wikipedia. If you can't do it on your own, feel free to send a direct email to me. I will put my email address in the chat box, and then I will be happy to add your language to the list and make it visualize what if there are any knowledge gaps related to the vital articles on your language Wikipedia. Answer to question 1, quality assessment was done manually, and it is not that I am doing the quality assessment, but a group of volunteers are. And the quality assessment that we are doing for women's health is not different from the quality assessment that we are doing for general articles. So it's the same. It could be classed into A, B, or C, depending on how good the content is. And no AI tools were used in this case. But definitely in the future, when the AI, the large language models mature, to be able to use to be able to grasp the content of the Wikipedia articles. I think it's really a window for us to explore and see how well AI tools work when it comes to classifying articles. On the other hand, we also have a partially AI assisted tool called the ORES, which gives a score for an article based on the content the article has. So there is some AI assisted tool already, but the assessment that we are doing as a part of WikiProject Women's Health is completely manually by people. Hope I answered that question.
Okay. Yeah, you did. Thank you so much. I see another question on the Jamboard, and I think this question goes to Dr. Stellah, and it states how the issue of genital mutilation is viewed in the context of girls' sexual health. So would you like to respond to that?
Of course. So I'll start from the place of consent. Is that FGM happens in the context of lack of consent, particularly these young girls are usually minors, so there's that issue of consent. Then the second issue I want to speak about is the complications that arise around FGM. Immediately they can be overbleeding and they can actually die, particularly those ones who have undiagnosed blood problems around coagulation, that plug that, when you cut yourself, immediately it forms. So there are those ones who lack certain factors. Number three, the context, which is usually done around the traditional context, there's sharing of the cutting needle. And so that means that one can contract an infectious disease, including HIV. Number four is when they age or when they become pregnant, is there complications that come in, depending on which type of FGM. Type 4 is the most extreme, that removes all the external genitalia, removes the clitoris, labia majora, labia minora, and some of them even go ahead and sew, that then they leave a small hole. And so when these women get pregnant and they're coming to deliver, these young girls, is that a lot of them complicate, end up with fistulas. Fistula is like where the urethra, so there's a connection between the urethra and the vagina, or around the rectum and the vagina, and so they either pass out feces or urine automatically, and so that also comes with the complication around dignity, around esteem, around social inclusion. And the last one, which is a very important thing that we talk about, is pleasure. The clitoris is a pleasure center for women. And that opportunity is actually taken away from them. So a lot of the time when the clitoris is severed, it goes away with the nerves. So we have seen studies that about 80% of women who've gone through FGM do not actually have orgasm, particularly if the type of orgasm is the one which is located around the clitoris. Part of sexual pleasure, when we talk about how people explore or experience pleasure. So there's for feminine identifying individuals, is they have clitoral stimulation. So FGM takes away that. And so you see the health implications is immediate at an individual level. There's complication at as they age. And finally, is the risk, there's a connection between FGM and child marriage, right? Because of the traditional setup, young girls who undergone FGM are believed to be mature enough to get married. And so they get married to older people. And of course, that also comes with implication. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Stellah, for providing clarity to that question. And just to note that this session was actually meant to last for 90 minutes, but because we do find it very interesting and insightful, we thought that it would be nice to extend it a little longer. And so please kindly bear with us, because I think this is something we really need to discuss about. Yeah, so just quickly, I see some other questions related to the campaign that was run in Spain. And it said, have you, I think is more, yeah, a question. Have you seen any outreach results with the abortion campaign? Maria, would you like to respond to that question?
Yeah, absolutely. We have in fact seen some results from our outreach. There is this European initiative mi voz, mi decisión, which in English I guess would translate to my voice, my choice. I was trying to get enough signatures to make abortion a right in all of the European Union. And so they actually contacted us and they started using the content of the articles to promote the need for a safe and legal abortion in the European Union. So that was kind of cool. And this happened after I had already sent my slide, so I didn't add that slide about it. But yes, this is an example of how Wikipedia articles can actually influence society and hopefully public policy in the big stage.
Okay, cool. Thanks for that response. So there's another question here. It says, what is the name of the tool to generate missing article list? I don't know if Netha has responded to that.
No, I have not responded to that earlier. The tool, we used two tools. One is the PET scan tool that is available on any language, and you could filter out the articles based on the category depth, and choose whether it's an intersection or a union of the articles that you need, and then you could generate the results. So PET scan was the major tool that I used. Then there is a tool called Bamboards. It's quite old tool, but it's quite useful when it comes to creating a CSV file or creating article list by category. I encourage all of you to go through that tool if possible. And thirdly, I also just use the search bar on the Wikipedia search, giving appropriate keywords to be able to get a list of articles satisfying that criteria. All of this can be found in the participate page under the subtitle Improve Existing Articles. I can share the link to that as well so that you can have a look. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that response. So there's another very interesting question I found on the Jamboard, which says, how can we bridge language barrier with complex medical terms from English wiki to our local wiki? Because I believe this is a very big, it calls for a very big concern, especially for people who are interested in translating existing article. However, they might not know some of the local languages that they can use to represent those medical terms. So what would you advise? I'm throwing this question to either Netha or Maria, who had also worked around abortion. So what do you think? How can they, what would you recommend for someone who wants to contribute, but medical terms is presented as a barrier to writing or translating?
I can take it first, and then I would like for Maria to add more ideas. So regardless of your knowledge in women's health or regardless of your expertise level on Wikipedia, there is something that you can always contribute. People, you can look at, to begin with, a very easy example is to go to the list of women's health related images and write structured data. It's quite simple. You look at what the image represents and write a short description as well as maybe a little word or a phrase representing what the image looks like. So we have thousands of such images requiring structured data, and this is one of the very simple tasks that anybody could do. And going to the other end of the spectrum, we need a lot of experts. If you are an expert in a particular women's health related topic, you could actually write that article or improve that article, or add references to the article. So there is so we have already mentioned about articles related to abortion by country. So if there is no article related to abortion in Uganda, for example, I don't know if that article exists. In that case, you could, if you're an expert in that topic, you could create that article as well as create so many other subtopics related to that. For example, abortion in teenage pregnancy and abortion in teenage people in Spain, for example. So The Wikipedia gives a lot of possibility to create articles related to a given epidemiology or a population group or a particular gender and so forth. So the opportunities are nearly limitless. So so if you're an expert, this is how you can contribute with your expertise in, in smaller subtopics, which requires very good knowledge in a very narrow field of expertise. We have tasks related to all ranges. If you're a programmer, you could create small algorithms to be able to batch upload images related to women's health to Wikimedia Commons. So regardless of your knowledge level, regardless of your expertise, there is something that you can do, and all those tasks are listed in the participate page of WikiProject Women's Health. Maria, if you would like to add something.
Yes, I'm gonna plus one everything Netha has said, but I am also gonna say just reach for the low-hanging fruit. I mean, at the end of the day, what we do is document. Okay, we are not creating new content. We are just documenting existing content. Start with your region, for instance. Start with your country. You will be able to check the sources much more easily. You might even have some idea of the topic you're choosing, and you'll have at least even if it's a very basic idea. It doesn't have to be abortion. It can be menstrual health. It can be menopause. It can be any other topic in Spain, in Mexico, in Argentina, and you can start there and just start documenting and start with a step and then add on to it. If you don't feel super comfortable, prepare the articles of Wiki. I tend to prepare articles of Wiki anyways because of, I started a long time ago, internet connection was not very good, and I started doing that, and then I just save it all on Wikipedia, or use it, or do it on your I don't know what the English word for this, the taller, the workshop. I don't know how you call it in English. Sandbox, maybe?
Sandbox, yeah.
Yeah, sandbox, okay.
Sandbox.
But just to start checking what's the situation right now. And from that, you just pull the thread. How has been the situation in the past? There are complex terms, there are technical terms, of course, but that should not be a deterrent, because at the end of the day, you're just, depending on which frame you use, you're talking about the history of women, you're talking about the history of rights, right? So it doesn't necessarily have to be a very deeply medical article, because you're not in the abortion article, okay?
Yeah.
And if need be, you can get information from the main article. But I would focus more on talking about the story, the history of this particular country or this particular region.
Wow, interesting. Thank you so much for that idea. And just like they've said, it all begins with a step, and then you get bold and even become bolder as you progress. And I think I still have 8 more minutes. So I would just look at some of the questions there. We might not be able to respond to all of them, but then for the next question that I can see here, it says from a regional aspect, how can we do resource material preparation for a project centered around women's health, respecting the cultural nuances? And there's another question I found interesting here that says, what do we mean by addressing intersectionality in Wikimedia projects? So maybe our speakers would like to respond to any of these questions.
Maybe I can start. As a feminist, one of the
Okay.
things I have learned to be able to do is to step away and ask, in spaces that I go into, are there indigenous people, are there community people who can actually contribute to this work, who can be references, who are there communities of practice that can actually contribute to this work? And so you come in from a place of let me add, not from not in a vacuum, but where there is already what is existing. I think a lot of assumptions that are being made is lots of communities are lacking in knowledge. And so those vacuums that existed are actually perceptory and not the reality. And so the question that maybe the other layer of opening it up is ask yourself, so how do you engage with such communities? How do you situate yourself with these communities, acknowledging their culture, respecting their culture, and asking, so what have you been doing? You hear stories from our grandmothers and our aunties and our uncles, you know, and people from the whole community. There has something that has been done. There's a practice. So to start now from that level of this is what is available. So in research, we call it appreciative inquiry.
Wow. Interesting. I think Dr. Stellah has just like given a very detailed explanation as to what we mean by addressing intersectionality in Wikimedia projects. And with this, I've been getting some messages, so I would just quickly move to the group reflection, and I'll pass it over to Tila and Chinu to coordinate that agenda. So over to you, Tila and Chinu. Thank you all so much. And thank you, our speakers, for responding to this question. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, Bukola. Thank you so much. And apologies that we have so much to share, and it seems that we have not calculated the time well. And I would thank you, Bukola, for sharing now the Easy Retro. Actually, it's a group activity, and it's so necessary. I mean, those we know we are at time, so if you need to leave, please. Apologies again, and please just leave. But if you can stay longer, we could work together on this Easy Retro, especially to understand what would be the future. Chinu, Chinmaya, and I would be facilitating this part. I think we have covered the topics here. We have been talking about what is working well in the projects, in the initiatives around women's health. We have been talking about the challenges we have when we're writing about the content. We have been talking maybe less, but which is also important, what are the resources needed to carry on this work, no? So what are the resources we need from fellow Wikimedians, or maybe also from the Wikimedia Foundation? And the last column we see is the vision for this work. So we see that we have different projects. How can we work together? What would be the idea we would have to keep working on this topic, maybe more closely to each other? Like, is this a second learning clinic? Maybe I see there's a lot of excitement around the topic. Maybe we need more space, more time. So if you could please share your thoughts here in this Easy Retro. And I'm sorry, they're saying I'm speaking too fast. Sorry for that, apologies. So if you could share your thoughts, maybe we could give you 5 minutes to start sharing, populating the board with things that we have been discussing here. And then you can voice, or we can read your comments for us to kind of map what's the situation for the women's health topic. If you don't have a project, that's not a problem. I mean, you can start saying, for example, what are the challenges for you to start something now, if you want to work with this topic. I hope that's clear. I don't know if anyone has any question. I don't know if Chinu wants to add anything, Chinu.
Yes, I will add something. Thank you, Tila, for explaining the columns as well. Just to, it's a housekeeping tip for those who are seeing the Easy Retro board for the first time. You can simply just click on the plus button that you are seeing on your screen, following the link, and you can add your responses. In the field, you can add text, you can add some links, you can add GIFs expressing your thoughts, anything that you can add. And yes, while you are adding your responses to these columns, I would request you to take two things in your mind. For example, if you are thinking that what is working well, do follow your individual capacity. What do you think as an individual? And also to the language community that you belong to, what do you feel that what is working well for my group, and what is the challenge that my group is facing? And also you can write in your own language. English is not mandatory. We are flexible with language support. So yes, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chinu. So please, we can see that our people already populating the board. So please go ahead and help us find out what is needed for us to improve this work, and what's the vision we have for this work for the future of the women's health topic as a Wikimedia movement, as a collective movement.
And also, regarding these columns, if anyone wants to unmute and share their answers, that is also happily welcome. Okay, I see we have started receiving responses on these columns. Following the first one, what is working well? Identification of vital articles related to women's health. Good one. Challenges. Finding resources that do not have a paywall. Finding sources that do not have a paywall. Does that mean the authentic reference?
I think they mean that sometimes when you're coming across articles, sometimes depending on the organization that's providing or the institutions providing the resource, you have to pay for that science article. And a lot of times they're academic.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's a real challenge. Knowledge expertise about the topic, yes. Most of the articles could be targeted not on some languages. Oh, I think the third one is somewhat related to what we just addressed on the Jamboard. Respecting the cultural nuances. Resources for initiating research related to image and data gaps related to women's health. May I please request who has written this? Can you please elaborate this question? Feedback a little bit. Resources for initiating research related to image and data gaps.
Chinu?
Yes, Taylor.
Yeah. Yes, I was going to say, maybe you can help people also, like, for example, these resources for initiating research, maybe you can move it to resources needed, like we can help people. And I also wanted to say that you can also thumbs up, like questions that, entries that you like, things that people are sharing. And maybe and hopefully we can hear from people. So let's give them 2 more minutes to write, and then we can ask them to voice if they like. I think the conversation was so rich and we did not want to interrupt it. And I think there's a lot here for us to discuss as well. What do you think, Chino?
Yeah, perfect. Let's wait for 2 minutes then. Okay, now that we have completed the 2 minutes of waiting time for our wonderful feedbacks, now let's dive into this column by column. Would you like to take this one up, Tila? The first column, what is working well?
Sure. I was thinking, Chinu, maybe people that have contributed, even if it's not from the first column, because I want to make sure that we hear from them. So I'd love for anyone who would like to speak on what they have contributed to raise their hand and just share with us. Is there anyone willing to share?
I cannot find the hand. May I?
Go ahead, Camila.
So I wrote something about the challenges because I think a lot of articles could not be could be targeted as notable in some languages. For example, in Italian Wikipedia, I cannot see that we can write about abortion in every single region of a country. Would be hard to write even in every country. So, and this is about abortion, but I think the same situation is about menstruation and anything else. And another thing I think is very, very important. A lot of us, as Netha said, we can, as expert Wikimedians, we can help with the little tasks, but we are not experts. So we need to find a way to engage people. So I always wondering, how can you find people like all the doctors we have here, so committed to Wikimedia in order to write? Because it's not easy. It's not easy to find someone who dedicate time to write articles in Wikipedia about what is their expertise. So if you have some tips and tricks, I don't know, Netha, some ideas, please let us know. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Camila. I think that Camila was bringing up two things that we're very familiar with, which is negotiating with our communities, language communities, while we're writing about topics that are sensitive, for example, right? And the other thing that she brought is about how to write about things that we don't feel we're experts. So I don't know if Netha has any answer. We have been thinking about that also, how, you know, to take advantage of somebody who knows how to write, for example, an article with more of a medical approach. Would it be possible to have a guide on that or anything? I don't know. I'm just throwing ideas, but just to say, and to ask if Netha or other participants have questions or comments on what Camila just shared.
I don't really have a very good answer to this question, but one of the things that emerged in discussions were that we would engage retired medical professionals, retired doctors, retired nurses, retired optometrists, for example, who might be interested in volunteering, and we would contact the organizations who have retired people, and they probably have a wealth of information and probably a little bit more free time than the working professionals. So they could be a potential target for creating one of these campaigns. And the second one would be medical students. We have run similar projects in the past with the Wikipedia education program, where students get credit points based on the quality of the articles that they have written. So Wikipedia and education groups could potentially do something to engage medical students. And I know from my own experience that I started editing Wikipedia as a medical student, and I continued doing that even after I finished my studies. So there could be people out there who, if we catch them early, they are more likely to continue the work even after they have graduated. So these are some of the ideas that I have from the top of my head. But as always, it's quite difficult to bring in and retain experts in different fields because they often happen to be very busy with other tasks and other things in their life, with too little time to dedicate for volunteering activity.
Thank you so much, Netha. That's very helpful. I added in the column vision for the work, where we say that collaborating with organizations that focus on women's health is important. Actually, in this case, it's not organizations on women's health, but you mentioned like the retired professional and students could be a potential target. So reaching out to the organizations they belong to would be maybe a vision we have for this work, like on how to keep with the good work. And I see a hand. Yvonne, please go ahead.
Hi, I hope you can hear me.
Loud and clear, Yvonne.
Yes, so I think I agree with you, Nita, on the medical perspective. I personally am a pharmacist. Um, I contribute on Tree Wikipedia in Ghana, in Africa, and we literally have been facing this issue. We are currently running an editathon on health-related topics, not necessarily with women's health, but in general. And then we are seeing this issue come up. And I think what helps for us, I am part of the organizing team, so then I get to be part of the team that helps with um, looking at the articles that have been put together and then ensuring that they read medically, they are medically sound because of my background. So I think, yeah, we need more people who have that background to help. And the students part is quite unique. We probably have, I have not even thought of that, really, never. Yeah. I added a part on the global thematic editing campaign for the vision for the work. The reason being that I realized for me personally, I really get excited with the campaign, which is like Wiki Loves Africa, for instance, where we contribute images. And just by that campaign, I realized that we are able to create awareness around that theme. I believe we could probably do something similar because this is so important a topic. Um, there might be lots of editors who are not contributing just because they haven't thought about it. They really have not looked in that direction. So if we could have campaigns like that, global campaigns like that, maybe continental, it could bring people's minds to the issue of reproductive health, women's reproductive health, and the topics around it, the gaps we have, and get them to also contribute in that aspect. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yvonne. And we're reading in the chat, and we have a next hand from Nat. I think who has a little bit, it was good because we're having like the medical perspective from people that are professionals, experts. And I think we have a different view that would come from Nat. And also thinking about the campaigns, if you would have like a campaign on the women's health topic, how to bring together people with different backgrounds and different experiences, and how would they contribute? So with that, we'd love to hear from you, Nat.
Hello, thank you. Yes, I wanted to add that, yeah, I think it's very important to have experts writing Wikipedia, like medical experts when talking about health issues, but also I think that we need like a good balance between experts and people who are more used to doing divulgation of the information. Like, for example, I think feminist activists and sexuality educators are very likely to be interested in learning to use Wikimedia projects as a tool for disseminating that knowledge. And also it's a kind of activism, like on the side of pleasure and visibilizing gaps in how health services are delivered. I think like there's a great potential for people who are not medical experts to like really gain like a very good understanding on these topics and be able to write good articles as well, and also like to provide some input on how to do it in a way that general public can understand. And I think they like these communities would be also really fun, like very up to creating other kind of multimedia content and not only writing articles. And I think all of those things are very needed around these topics. Like even if we may find references, as it was mentioned earlier, like not always the diagrams and photographs are describing of the truth about like the women's bodies and their diversity. So yeah, I think it's interesting like to target those non-medical expert audiences as well.
Thank you so much for sharing this with us. I feel that we have covered up pretty much of different aspects in terms of understanding and the skills. I see some of the vision for the future work, and yeah, these are pretty interesting. Do anyone from the participants would like to share any of their vision that they feel that Wikimedia movement should achieve in terms of medical health, especially to women's health? You can simply raise your hand or speak up.
I can't find the raise hand button and I find that everybody is silent. So I will share my vision. It's extremely important that women's health related content is available on Wikimedia projects. And because people who are most vulnerable to misinformation, people who do not have access to healthcare resources, probably have access to the internet. So they are the ones who are most vulnerable to go to the internet and look for medical advice on the internet. And if Wikipedia does not give them reliable, updated information related to their health, they are going to other websites. They are likely to go to other places, other websites, quacks, relatives who do not have medical expertise, blogs which doesn't give the full story, for example. And they become more susceptible to misinformation, and they are likely to suffer the consequences of following misinformation. So I think it's very important that we have healthcare related information on Wikipedia, not only on Wikipedia but also sister projects, especially Wikidata. And particularly because now in the age of ChatGPT and other large language models, the information that these large language models give to you is often collated from Wikipedia and other sources from the internet. So if you have misinformation creeping on Wikipedia, or if you have a knowledge gap on Wikipedia, it's going to affect the rest of the health of the rest of the internet ecosystem as well, particularly the large language models and voice assistants. So and that makes it very important that we focus on this. And regarding my vision, you are related to women's health. Our effort should not be focused on just one project, Wikipedia or Commons or one language. So we have to unite our efforts when it comes to women's health, because I believe that there is so much that we can learn from each other, cross pollinating our ideas between projects and between languages, and including the community that doesn't work here, that doesn't work on Wikipedia, but work on projects related to outreach, strategizing, or writing code, for example. So our communities, our readers, our projects, our languages, everything should be kept in mind when we are working on women's health, because every aspect is important.
That makes a lot of sense, Netha. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. And especially misinformation in this era of internet is playing a very vital role in shaping the young minds. And well, I see there is a interesting discussion going on in the chat, Jan and Masana. Would you like to take this up by voicing it all to the participants here? Yeah,
Sure.
Masana?
Ian can go ahead. I'm just capturing any comments. Please, we'd love to hear from you, Ian.
Sorry, so in 2019 and 2020, we did a long partnership with the Society of Family Planning, and we worked with specialists, many of them abortion providers, to improve content on Wikipedia about women's health. And one of the things that really struck me was how these people are at risk for doing their daily jobs. One of the people, or more than one of the people, mentioned that they are on hit lists that are maintained by anti-abortion activists, that they are personally threatened, that their life is in danger sometimes. And so, they were very concerned about privacy, although, they're incredibly courageous people for doing the work they do. They were concerned about privacy. And for example, we recorded our conversations and, making sure that was securely password protected and all that. And especially thinking about Dr. Stellah's presentation about how widely simply, being gay is a crime, that's probably going to be true, not just in abortion providers, but in a whole range of topics, and how important it is to be conscious of that, because we're kind of, some of us are much more concerned about our privacy. Those of us who are more active in these spaces realize we're out in the world. But, it's sort of a point where I think we need to reassure people and help them understand Wikimedia privacy, and how you out yourself and how you don't out yourself. That's sort of what I was thinking about.
This is really rich in conversation and very insightful to think of. But I have a question, I have a follow-up question. How do you see this as a barrier or maybe a deal breaker in future if we don't go for that privacy approaches in a good way?
I've always thought privacy is one of Wikipedia's superpowers, that, we don't even maintain logs of IP addresses beyond a certain amount of time. And, it took me 10 years to be out in the community, to not just be behind a username. And, it's valuable for activists. It's valuable for people who are at risk, or just might be, at risk for posting controversial information, or information that upsets somebody, and it ends up, people target your employers or something like that. So, I'm perfectly safe. My employer isn't going to care that it actively encourages me to edit Wikipedia, but for a lot of other people, it's a danger, and it's one I've seen for decades. I remember one of my first people I really thought was great on Wikipedia was threatened with outing, and that was the end of her editing. So.
That answers my question, because I had that doubt in my mind. Thank you for answering this. Well, I see there is also a feedback in the region section that the project is very English focused. Working through Wikidata should help in making it more accessible to other languages. Netha, would you like to address this?
Sorry, what was the question again?
Not the question. This feedback which I'm highlighting right now, the project is very English focused. Working through Wikidata should help in making it more accessible to other languages. How well do you agree with this?
I definitely agree with translation and internationalization of our projects, regardless of whether it's women's health or anything else. Given that we give focus on Wikipedia articles in different languages, there is there is a tendency to overlook that we also have to work on this on Wikidata. So I agree that there is a lot of knowledge gap when it comes to different languages on Wikidata. And on Wikidata, it's quite easy for us to grab the statistics regarding knowledge gaps in different languages. And we see that, especially in women's health, I see that items related to women's health are often missing when it comes to description in languages other than English. So I consider it's a very important issue that we have to be focusing on. But on the other hand, we also need resources and targeted initiatives to encourage people speaking all these different languages to come and participate in Wikidata, which is quite difficult compared to making people understand why they should participate on Wikipedia. On an editathon, it's quite easy to introduce Wikipedia and show them why it's important to write on Wikipedia. But if you do a editathon on Wikidata, people don't quite understand in the first glance why this is important, and it requires more convincing. It requires more amount of training for people to be independent and going in and working on Wikidata. So editathons have traditionally been focusing mostly on Wikipedia and not other sister projects, which is also an important issue that we are facing. But the good news related to Wikidata is that we have bots, we have programs, so we have algorithms that help us to grab large amounts of content and put them up on Wikipedia, on Wikidata at one go. So it is also important that we identify these knowledge banks or the lists and the data sets that are appropriate in to be added to Wikidata in multiple languages. And if that is possible, we can use the existing tools to grab those data and put them upon Wikidata.
That is really helpful. Okay, so with this, respecting the time, we would move to the next slide, which is our closer part. Before that, I saw Tila, you raised your hand. You wanted to share something?
Sure, just before we close, because we have 3 minutes left before we all leave. So thank you again for staying longer than we expected. This board is gonna stay open. There are many comments here that we could keep discussing on and improving. So I really hope this is not like the end of this conversation and that we can have, I don't know, maybe another learning clinic on this or maybe another space. Maybe this can become a community of practice. I don't know. This is gonna depend on the energy and the resources available within the Wikimedia movement, no? So it's just to thank you again and to say that hopefully this is just the start of something, you know, bigger. And thanks again to the Let's Connect team for organizing this.
Okay, thank you all for staying on the call up till this time. And quickly, I would just like to share the feedback form because we'd like to always get your feedback as to how you... Yes, so I would expect my team member to drop that in the chat, and I would also just share my screen just to be sure we are all responding to the feedback form before we all drop off the call. So it's a very simple step. It wouldn't take even, I think it takes less than 5 seconds of your time. So we would just like you to help us measure how well this session was. On a scale of 1 to 5, how much do you agree with all the statements that you've heard? And we also have other, and what do you think was one of the important learning that you took from this clinic? So it could be very short. It could be a keyword or a simple phrase or statement. Quickly, you could just drop that using the link to the Mentimeter that has been dropped in the chat. So while you're still on the call trying to respond to the feedback form, I would also just like to let you know that so we'll be having other clinics coming up, and we'll do well to send you updates as to when these clinics will be holding. And once again, I just want to say thank you all. And this is the time that you get to unmute your mic to speak, to say a few words of thank you to the speakers while Cassie would stop recording.